Sisi. Would you like to buy something at my store?
Hi, let me just have a look around.
Ooh, what about this pair of earrings? Well, those are quite beautiful. They look quite beautiful. I'll take them. Okay, well, then it's sorted. Here you go.
Thank you.
By the way, where did you say that you were from?
Oh, I'm from Eswatini.
Really? You don't sound like you're from Eswatini.
Okay, I'm originally Sri Lankan, but I was born and raised in Eswatini.
That makes more sense. So you're from Sri Lanka.
But this is one of many interactions. In fact, this is one of our most recent interactions that Ruth and I experienced when identifying how we define where we come from. Good evening, everyone. My name is Kiara Fonseka.
And my name is Ruth Lyaga. How many of you here relate to the experience of struggling to define yourself?
And now, how many of you identify yourselves with more than one culture? Ruth, you and I have known each other for 7 years now. We came together to high school since Form 1, but we never really spoke about this topic in detail.
Okay, technically we knew each other for 3 years before Form 1, you just never spoke to me.
That's such a lie, because I tried talking to you. You just ignored me.
Okay, you know what? That's not important. The important thing was that we were able to break through that barrier and start having conversations with each other, witnessing each other's embarrassing moments. Remember when you used to pronounce management as management?
Hey. Let's not go into that, please. But you know what I am grateful for? I'm grateful for those countless deep conversations we had about culture and identity. I remember us talking about the struggles we face when trying to define where we come from. For example, I'm originally Sri Lankan, but not everyone will consider me to be fully Sri Lankan because I was born and raised in Eswatini. And again, I consider myself to be partly Swazi, but not everyone will accept this Swazi aspect of me. And Ruth and I, we acknowledge that there are people who will accept these sides of us, but there are also people who may not understand the beauty and complexity of being multicultural.
And I definitely feel like it is something that needs to be more spoken about, because when I, similarly to you, identify myself with more than one culture, Ugandan and Eswatini, people may not really understand. In fact, there seems to be a barrier sometimes when I'm speaking to people with the countries that I identify with. In fact, I recall this one conversation I had with one of my friends from Uganda, born and raised, in the cafeteria. After asking me, how long have you spent in Uganda? How long have you lived in Uganda? She proceeded to say that I wasn't really Ugandan. And that came as such a shock to me because although I have not actually lived there, I've lived in Eswatini most of my life, I do still have such a fervent love for my country. And I have taken the initiative of trying to learn about my culture, my history, as well as the fact that I've been surrounded by a Ugandan community here in Eswatini, from the parents who raised me to the friends that I have, to a little association of Ugandans in Swaziland. So it definitely feels that there is always that Ugandan aspect that will be a part of me, as much as I have lived here.
I can 100% agree with you on that, and I can also relate to you on that. The love and appreciation that I have for my culture as a Sri Lankan is incomparable, and I'm truly proud to say that I am Sri Lankan. And again, I'm also proud when I say I know the culture here in Eswatini. And as much as I love Sri Lankan food, I also just love going home to have a braai surrounded by family. But this selectivity that you mentioned, that Ruth mentioned, of who is allowed to be from a culture, a part of a culture, or from a country, is distressing for multicultural individuals such as ourselves. as it constricts us from truly embracing our identities. In 1993, Jane Bennett described the negative aspects of identifying with more than one culture as being, and I quote, encapsulated cultural marginality, which is characterized by feelings of loneliness, alienation, internal distress, and internal conflict between the two cultures, and the pressure from each culture to be more authentic to a single one. This is the case of many individuals sitting in this room.
This is the case for many individuals I've met throughout my lifetime, being exposed to so many international bodies.
And this is the case of many famous people around the world. Famous names you may know, such as Kylian Mbappe,
Charlize Theron,
and the famous singer Her, all have a multicultural background. But we believe that this case may arise due to human tendency to classify. Humanity loves classification, and it is of human nature to push people into certain boxes when they do not fully identify their classification. But classification can also have its positive aspects. For example, in our daily lives, such as when we're going grocery shopping and we're looking for the specific items that we require. We move according to the certain aisles. Or even here on campus, when we're attending sports events and we're separated into the different age groups, the under 14s, under 16s, and so on, allowing there to be a more fair competition.
But there is also a negative side to classification, and Matt K. Drabeck covers this in his book, Classify and Label, The Unintended Marginalization of Social Groups. He covers how, and I quote, labels can unintentionally misrepresent groups and individuals. It disrupts how people think of themselves and how they treat others, sometimes leading to marginalization as well as social exclusion. How many people here have ever felt socially excluded in any environment, the workplace, at school, or even just hanging out with friends because of a label?
External groups pushing certain pieces together can often push other pieces out of place. That is to say, classification can help with navigating and understanding, but it can also work to exclude other people. Humans are all unique. No one is exactly the same, and labels are not always perfect. So let me ask you a series of questions. What happens to the individual that does not fit into any group? What happens when we push each other into specific bubbles, but we're just not that 51% enough to push you fully into that bubble? What happens to the white Africans when somebody generalizes Africans as black? Or the mixed race people when they are asked to tick one box between Caucasian, Black, Asian, or Hispanic? Moments like this are distressing and demotivating, and in a world so tightly built on classification, create identity crisis.
But Bennett also offers an alternative to this encapsulated marginality. She offers the idea of a constructive identity, one in which a person takes an active role in defining his or her identity, and recommends that an ideal situation is one in which a person looks to their own self-reference and awareness for their identity, as opposed to the ones provided and established by a single culture. This means to throw away the need for external validation when it comes to defining your identity, specifically cultural identity. Taking the reins and embracing both or all, in some people's cases, of the cultures that have influenced your life. Aiming to keep in touch with the roots from your country of origin, as well as the country in which you have spent the larger part of your life.
Now, there are many benefits to embracing multiculturalism, especially in this increasingly interconnected world. Personal growth and increased sense of identity.
Expanded perspective,
improved opportunities,
increased adaptability,
and enhanced social cohesion.
You know, I never realized how cohesive it was to be multicultural until we started doing this TED Talk.
That's very true. In fact, I vividly remember the 7 minutes of silence that followed as we stared distantly into thin air, as if literally in awkward silence.
Honestly, I think that's the longest time we've ever spent quiet when we're next to each other.
That's true. Let's never do that again.
Yeah.
But I also remember the moment the silence dissolved, when we realized and acknowledged that we have more than one home. 1 minute I'll be talking to my Sri Lankan community. In fact, I'm going to expand that to the South Asian community. 1 minute, because we all know the same shampoo commercial with the same actor. And for me, that ability to adapt, to be talking with my Sinhala expressions, Sinhala being the language of Sri Lanka, eating with my hand, or going visiting the Sri Lankan fish market, or even bonding over the impossible number of mosquitoes, which is quite ironic, given the fact that I'm allergic to mosquitoes. But I can say the same for when I'm here in Eswatini, amongst Emaswati. I'm able to use Siswati expressions, even when I'm talking in English, and there are countless stories of growing up here in Eswatini that you could only experience in a Swazi school. For example, visiting the cultural village every single year. And it's the same guy who gives the tour as well. But it never gets old.
No, truly. And hearing you say that really reminds me of this time in Form 1, where our teacher asked us to write on the board where we're from. And everybody wrote theirs down. And this one guy comes up and he writes where he's from. And we're all like, okay. And he writes a second country. And we're like, okay, other people have 2 countries. Then a third, a fourth, and eventually ends up writing 5 countries down on the board. And the whole class is looking at each other like, how is this even possible?
I vividly remember us looking at each other, and I turned to you and I said, there's no way he has more than one home.
No, truly. Except now that I look back at it, I realize that it's completely possible to be influenced by more than one culture in your life. As much as I always say that I'm Ugandan, I can never forget to add the aspect that I have lived in Eswatini for my whole life. Because as much as I can complain about leaving 2 hours early for an event and still arriving an hour late for some reason, I always look back at the memories I've made, going to the spaza shops to buy sweets, or playing a game Eki, or all the music that's here just stays in my heart and truly helps me identify and be connected with both of the countries.
We encourage multicultural individuals to embrace their freedom to construct and choose their identity by integrating various cultural elements. And by integrating these various cultural elements, we hope to enforce a stronger sense of self and to rather move away from what is expected by society and pursue your own self in identity.
Embracing the multicultural aspect of yourself promotes open and respectful dialogue among cultures, as well as fosters a sense of unity while still maintaining diversity. It opens up the possibilities for resolving conflicts and challenging biases. It allows for the celebration of intersectionality, promotes inclusivity, and highlights the uniqueness in each individual. Because even within a single culture or a single group, not everybody is going to be the same.
As we said earlier, there are immense benefits of embracing multiculturality, such as the social cohesion, the improved sense of communal understanding as well as individual understanding, these factors far outweigh the challenges associated with navigating cultural identity.
By striking a balance between celebrating diversity and nurturing a sense of belonging, societies can truly build inclusive and harmonious environments that celebrate the richness of being multicultural.
At the end of the day, Ruth and I, we acknowledge that there are going to be many multicultural individuals who have different experiences to us. But what we hope to implore is for these individuals to embrace their uniqueness, express it, and to not allow external influences, including ourselves, to piece their puzzles, piece your puzzles for you. And we hope to encourage those who may not relate to be more aware of these issues and to understand the effect of what you may say may have on another individual. And lastly, we hope to encourage everyone around the world, everyone sitting in this room, to embrace this increasing phenomenon of multiculturality.
We believe that more than one culture can define you,
and more than one village can raise you. Thank you.